We are very excited to introduce a brand new show on our station. It's called 125th Street and Beyond. The host is Barbara Askins. She is president and CEO of the 125th Street Business Improvement District in Harlem, better known as 125 BID. Her resume is so extensive, I could take up the whole show just talking about the work she has done, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about what she's done here in Harlem. She successfully created the first and only business improvement district in the Harlem community. She is guiding the development of result-oriented strategies involving retail plans, rezoning for future growth, cultural sustainability, and evaluating the interplay between science, technology, and businesses. Her public involvement strategies have led to successes such as the annual Harlem Holiday Lights, the first cultural bonus incentive in New York City to be used to shape the future of 125th Street as a cultural destination. Working closely with NYPD and 12 other city agencies, she is driving an interagency and community involvement approach that is addressing crime, homelessness, mental illness, sanitation, and streetscape improvements. Barbara Askins, welcome to WHCR.
Thank you very much, Angela, and good afternoon, listeners. 125th Street and Beyond is a new show that we are bringing to the listeners so you can learn more about the work of the 125th Street Business Improvement District. It also showcases It's a show about the relationships and how we are working with city agencies and bids around the world. We will be giving you updates on what's happening and addressing issues that impact the commercial district. Today, we will talk about the bid, we will talk about public safety, and we will talk about a cannabis dispensary that has been proposed for 125th Street. We have a lot to talk about, so I'm going to jump right into this. Our guests today are our chairman, Mukram Taherli, property owner on 125th Street and owner of Mushtari Hardware, and he's chair of the bid. Captain Tariq Shepard, commanding officer, NYPD, the 28th Precinct. Daniel Blumenstein, law offices of Daniel Blumenstein, and the bid's attorney. And Dr. Joseph Tate, Harlem Commonwealth Council, a community organization providing services in the Harlem community for over 55 years. We'd like to start off this discussion today with Mukram Taherli. Mukram, welcome to 125th Street and Beyond.
Thank you, Barbara. It's an honor to be on the show.
Well, it's an honor for me to work with you. And for our listeners, I just would like to quickly tell you what a business improvement district is. And we will be telling you more each show. It is basically a tool where property owners can assess themselves to provide services and programs that they feel are needed for the district. There's a board of directors, of which Mukram is the chair of, and we work closely with the community to chart our future and to bring to the Harlem community the products and services that everyone feel is needed to grow the district. Our boundaries are Morningside to Fifth Avenue on 125th Street. So Mukram, I find the stories of all the business owners very interesting, and I get to hear them alone, and others I think will enjoy these stories. Can you tell us how you came to 125th Street, what made you want to do business in Harlem, and why you think 125th Street is a good place to do business?
Sure, Barbara. Well, first of all, it's great to be on the show and to really spread the word about Harlem. Our history actually goes back all the way to my dad. We're actually from Madagascar, from East Africa. And, when my dad came here, it was a natural attraction in a way. We first migrated to Brooklyn, actually. And then through brokers and through knowledge and through culture, he just was naturally attracted to 125th Street in Harlem. And he kind of saw that as pretty much an extension of his own roots. Even though, there's a lot of West African influence, we're still from the same continent. And that's what initially drew him really to Harlem, and to really, there was already back in the 80s and 90s, a wave of African migration, although Western, and that really kind of led him to invest in property on 125th Street and other places in Harlem, but mainly 125th Street was very dear to him. That building he really fixed with his with his own hands, and went through all these waves where there was crime, there was robberies, and he was always there actively. And then eventually we set up a business there because he wanted to be in the community, play an active part of pretty much the upliftment that we wanted Harlem to experience. And in that sense, we opened a hardware store because this is kind of the line of business he was also doing in Madagascar and in the Comore Islands, actually. And so that was he brought that experience from his background, and we opened a shop there, and that's how I became eventually involved. In a way to kind of live his vision out, and that's why we run Mushtari Hardware. And in a way, it's retail business is a very good extension because you meet the community people, you interact with customers, you come in, you get to know your neighbors, and that's what he really actually wanted. And that was his vision about really connecting with the customers and connecting with everybody around him.
So Makram, you are the chair of the bid, and basically you fit two categories. You are owner of the property and you're owner of a retail store. And both of them are small businesses. And so as a small business owner and a property owner, why is the bid important to you?
Well, one has a small property owner, we even though they're larger players, we have a voice and a say in for instance in being part of the bid, and also make sure our concerns are heard. And being a small retailer, it's important because small businesses are actually the lifeline of many main streets in America. And small business actually are the driving factor of innovation and many things are what New York City is all about. So it's important to have small business thrive, and it's not always about the big box stores and the big corporates, because people like us, like small businesses, even small bodegas or even small boutique shops, really connect well with the neighborhood, with the community, and a lot of time the owners are also individually vested and work into these locations as we do. And we actually have very low turnaround, and we get to know the customer base really well. You can say we've been there for over 20 years, and I know many of my neighbors in that sense, Barbara. And having a place in the bid, so you can really make sure your voice is heard. And the small business actually are the best are knowing to kind of understand what goes out on the ground, and in terms of making sure we can see what the negative impacts are, the positive impacts are, and it's almost like a live feedback. And that's how I became involved with the bid, because with communicating with Barbara, we almost have a daily or on a weekly basis where we know what's going on, and we can reflect back on what's going on the bid boundaries.
So Makram, you have a very interesting tenant mix. Inside the hardware store, you have a coffee shop with the barista, upstairs you have Eagle Academy. Just talk about a little bit, in terms of recruiting, what type of tenants you're looking for. Your building is definitely an example of helping small businesses. And I think it's one that others, could get example for, of how you really do a great integration of community programs in with your retail mix.
So Barbara, the idea, again, to make a community extension, and also to kind of create an experience in our store, we aside from a hardware store, we're also known for our gardening section. We're known for the plants, and we then introduce about 3 years ago, a cafe, to really build that community and to really build a connection with the customer base, because then, there's a social aspect to it. And especially with, when we face the competition with the internet and all that, it really creates a place where people come in and just get their coffee and create conversations and just gather in that sense. And at the same time, help the retail environment, because you have to create an experience. That has always been our commitment in a way to, we maintain our buildings really well. We focus on design. And, one of the tenants also is, it's an entertainment company. And then Edo Academy is a not-for-profit, which, really works in the schools in the neighborhood. They just it's the only, I kind of think, the only organization that runs an all-boys school publicly in a public school environment, because it's about fostering, really, boys, and making sure they stay off the streets. They really have mentorship, and they're on the right path to college. And to us, it's always been an agenda of, giving to the right tenant in such a way that whatever we do helps, in a way, the community and ourselves, well, actually, in the end, because we're here to create good.
And that's great, Malcolm. I mean, 125th Street is more than just a commercial district. And I think we need to do a better job at letting people know more about those different type programs. So now the hard questions, the challenges for businesses after COVID, what you're seeing on the street now. How are you surviving during these times? COVID definitely changed the way business is being done on 125th Street.
COVID was a challenge. And then, we don't know that happened afterwards with the BLM movement and the protest. And we were really active in making sure, Harlem was actually one of the safest places when all this movement was going around the country, and there were protests and some of them turned violent. We handled it really well in Harlem. But after that, in the post-pandemic, we saw there are a lot of issues with the shoplifting, the people that are kind of, that come out of these drug clinics that are just, walking like zombies. There's panhandling. They're constantly asking. Sometimes they stay in front of the store and asking for change and harass customers. And so those are kind of quality of life issues that really impact the customers, especially when you come for a coffee and you're walking out, constantly being told, "Can I have something?" It does impact, customer base. It does impact, customer flow and traffic flow. So we're dealing with all those challenges, and shoplifting has been a very big concern for us. And honestly, it's been hard because we literally have to hire 2 people, just kind of almost semi-security guards, because we have to make sure customers are only being served, but at the same time, we have to have one person on the cashier and all that to make sure, the manager is always very much involved on the floor, because we want to make sure the situation doesn't go out of control.
Here, if you had to choose your biggest challenge, if you could only choose one, which one would you say is the biggest thing that's making it difficult for you to do business right now?
I would say shoplifting from a store operator.
Do you have any suggestions? You know that we are working with the city agencies, and Captain Shepherd is going to come up and talk to us right after you about making the corridor safe. But just moving forward here and coming into the summer months and communicating with the community, because I know you have challenges like the supply chain. You still have challenges keeping employees. You still have the challenges online shopping. Do you have any advice to businesses, particularly small businesses? What are you doing that's making it okay for you to still be here?
Well, we believe in Harlem. We believe in the community. We believe that there's a lot of potential despite the hardships. And to be honest, I think all the efforts the bid has done in the past year, working with the city with this interagency coordination, has made an impact. And even though there's work to do to really, and I would tell other people that there is a platform on 125th Street. There's a system here where we're actively working to make things better, and there is potential here, business potential to dig your feet in and really try to make it work, Barbara. And in terms of employee retention, we understand. The police does a great job. They do what they can, but a lot of time there's a revolving door, as we've said. And one of our biggest thing has been to really tackle the issue before the shoplifting happens, right? And to really be vigilant about that, because honestly, just these people tend to come back, and we need to remember them and make sure that they don't come back in the store again. And we need to do those kind of actions. I think from a small business point of view are easily to tackle, but there is a turnaround that I think you have faith, and things have gotten better definitely in the past year.
And I do want you to touch on this supply chain in online shopping. I remember you said once you went to online shopping, your deliveries increased, and just balancing those two acts and doing business, but particularly the supply chain, because it's increasing cost.
Well, there's some of these things have actually become more regularized. It seems that post-pandemic, a lot of the supply chain was broken. So everything was harder. Everybody had to put more effort into getting merchandise, into everything along the side. The shipments wouldn't come on time. Those luckily have gotten better as time has gone on. The biggest issue we've dealt with also is inflation, obviously, the price hikes, and how to adjust the pricing, because that, from a retail point of view, has a direct impact on the customer base. And that has been the biggest issue, aside from supply chain. Now that the supply chain has become more normalized, there is an inflation factor where things are definitely a lot more expensive. And we last year, honestly, we're seeing it on a weekly basis how things were going up. And things are not coming down to the extent what people think they are. Prices have gone up, and you're always struggling about what justifies the retail price and how much you can operate to break even, at least to make your ends meet, Barbara. But I think that's the challenge of the future, controlling inflation, and hopefully that stabilizes, so the pricing structure can actually be more absorbable to the customer base.
Thank you very much, Makram, and I hope that you stay with us for the rest of the show. You're listening to 125th Street and Beyond. Today, we're talking about the bid, we're talking about public safety, and we're going to be talking about a cannabis dispensary that is proposed for 125th Street. I'd like to welcome our commanding officer from the 28th Precinct, Tariq Shepard. Captain Shepard, first we'd like for you to tell us a little bit about yourself, how you came to be the commanding officer at the 28th Precinct, and I know you have some Harlem stories.
Thanks, Barbara, and thanks for doing this and all of the work that the bid does to keep 125th Street a place that is vibrant and attractive to people from around the world that continue to come here and shop and just enjoy New York City. So yeah, just a little bit about myself. I'm born and raised in Harlem, right there on 142nd Street, 133rd Street. But I grew up here. I went to school, in New York City. I went to Cardinal Hayes, played basketball, in the Catholic High School League. So a lot of times when I'm out here on patrol, all of my friends and things, a lot of them are still in Harlem. And so being on 125th Street, where everybody comes, is just I really enjoyed the experience of being the commanding officer here, because I feel like I'm helping family on a daily basis. My own family still lives in Harlem, my mother, father, daughter. So this is just home for me, and I love being here. So I was selected to come to the 28th Precinct. after I interviewed and did a community panel and everything like that. But it was a choice. I was working downtown in a nice job in the police commissioner's office, and I chose to leave and come back to Harlem because this is really where I belong, right here in the community. And although it comes with a lot of challenges, and at times it gets very interesting out there, it's a special set of skills that you need to come into these communities and number one, care about where you're at, care about the concerns of the people, but then deliver on the promises that you make. So I don't overpromise. I just tell people I will always do my best to try and help and assist in any way that I can. So very happy to be here. Very happy to be collaborating with you and all of the folks at the BIT. So that's my story.
And a very, very great story too, and one that people of Harlem should hear because it's always good to have someone who know the community to deal with some of these issues, which brings us to the public safety issues when you first arrived, and what have you been doing to address these conditions? I mean, you have been very, very supportive of the interagency meetings that we have now on a monthly basis with all of the agencies, but specifically you are out there on the street, and a lot of the activity that goes on the street, you can't see it just by walking by. There are so many things that you are handling, and I think it would be good for our listeners to understand just what you found when you came there and what you have done to address it to make a difference.
Yeah, well, the first thing that I realized and that bothered me when I got to the 28th is as I walked around and dealt with and listened to people, and I got out there myself. I love to be out and just go and see for myself. Some days I walk in just my regular clothes so I can really remember to get the feel that the average person going to work or shopping gets when they're on 125th Street. And so I started to see, and then when I started to have meetings with some of the businesses, the managers, store owners, property managers, many of them felt defeated, and were considering whether or not they wanted to stay or not. And it's something that really was personal to me because this street I grew up on shopping. I remember when the movie theater was right on 125th Street. I saw my first movie as a kid on 125th Street. So, it's very important that the health of the businesses and the connection between us and the businesses. The mayor likes to say that public safety is prerequisite to prosperity, and I believe in that. So, I started to try and just let people know that I was going to make some changes to try and make sure that this was something in which they're going to see some change, and that we'll do what we have to do to try and make this a safer, but also a place where it's not a free for all. And some of the changes that we made was when I got here, they were flying cops in from all around the Manhattan to work on 125th Street on a daily basis. And what I saw there was they weren't connected to the community. For them, it was just a day out of the precinct that they worked, and they really didn't feel connected at all to the concerns that the businesses and the people who live and work here were having. And so when we sat down with the former Chief Obey and discussed some changes, that was one that I suggested, that we get a permanent unit assigned to 125 who turn out of the 28th precinct. And we managed that group from the 28th precinct. And with some help from some of our elected officials and the bid and everyone else, we got that done. And so we started with that. And then from there, we went to, the deployment of those officers. What hours should they be working? And so we recently changed, but at first they were working, we got 30 officers and they were working 8 to 4 and 2 to 10, 15 on each shift. And as we approach the summer months, we realized in the hot weather and what's coming, we realized that we have to change some of those hours. And we want the bulk of those officers working from 1 p.m. to the stores closed at night. So they'll be out here until at least 10 p.m. In the mornings, we still do have coverage to make sure that the commuters are seeing, when they go into the train, that our officers are out there. So we changed that as well. in the early morning, you see a lot of cars on 125th Street with their lights on from St. Nicholas all the way down to Fifth Avenue, and making sure that, whether it's the potential to commit a crime or just the deterrence, people see it. And I think that's made a difference. We had one robbery, and I'll tell you this as an example. We had one robbery of a woman who was walking to work. She came out of the train. She was walking to work on Lenox Avenue. It was around 6 a.m, and she was robbed at knife point for her pocketbook. And it just reminded me of just really old school crime in New York City, late 80s, early 90s type stuff, where you could be walking on 125th Street and at knife point, somebody just come up and take your pocketbook. That was unacceptable. And so when we put some changes in place, we haven't had a major crime like that happen. And that was about 3 months ago. So, change and proper planning and deployment does work. And so, I knock on wood, I want to keep that going.
So, okay, can you say a bit about how you work with other agencies? Because when you first came in, everyone understands that this cannot be just a police effort only, and community has to be there. There are many things beyond just the obvious crime and that's taking place, but you do graffiti removal, you work with the double parking situation, and you have to say a little bit about the drug crimes and the shootings, as it is public in the newspaper all the time.
Yeah, so everything here in a lot of city agencies we have to partner up with. So I'll give you an example, partnering up with the sheriff office to help us with the vehicles that you see on 125th Street without the proper tags, those fake plates that are on the car. Working with the sheriffs and with the smoke shops and how to go about addressing those and inspecting those places and making sure that we don't have a lot of illegal activity going on there. Working with even the MTA helped us in terms of when we needed a power washer to get some graffiti off of some of the storefronts and things like that. We've worked with obviously the retailers, but also other city agents like Special Narcotics. When I was here, when I got here, the special narcotics prosecutor pretty much promised me that she will be a partner in the drug crimes that are happening on 125th. When I first arrived, it just seemed like there were a lot of just open air drug sales with no repercussions. And what I did was I created a unit that specifically targets narcotics in the precinct. We didn't have that, and we haven't had that for a while. And we call it our public safety unit. But they go out and they've been making a lot of arrests, but particularly with the dealers. Because one thing I tasked them with is not to just bring in people who are suffering from addiction issues, because they really are they're really are predatory drug dealers out there. And they're suffering from addiction. And all of a sudden, here comes all of these dealers who is just an influx of them on 125th Street trying to take advantage of the fact that there's these rehab programs that exist. And so I think some of the results of that we can't change some things like bail reform and things like that. And I can't focus on what we can't control. I have to focus on what I can control, which is, hey, we'll make the arrest, we'll make our case. And the special narcotics prosecutor said, hey, up front, you might not see the results, but she has promised that down the line, when these people come for sentencing, she is going to be holding them accountable. And we have to see if that comes to fruition. And usually it takes 6 to 8 months to tell.
And so a final question to close this out. What is your biggest challenge right now coming into the summer months?
I think the biggest challenge on 125th Street is the fact that it's a place in which everybody comes. If you are from the neighborhood, no matter whether, good or bad, we have people who come from work and they just want to pick up something, they want to shop. We have 125th Street growing, where we have other, the brands are coming, they want to come here. We're going to get a Trader Joe's here at some point. We're going to get some other, so we have DMV here now. We are getting the Urban League headquarters. We're getting a hotel. So the challenge is going to be, while 125th Street continues to expand, how do we keep people safe when it's a place where sometimes rival gang members come and they meet and unexpectedly in front of whether it be a cell phone store or a sneaker store. These things are not planned. There's not much intel you can get. They just happen sporadically, and we have to make sure that our deployment and that we're very visible out there to make sure we're a deterrent from people pulling guns and having shootings on 125th Street. Like last year when I first got here, there was a couple of very, very high profile, public and polarizing incidents that happened on 125th. So that's the biggest challenge. But along with that is also making sure that while we are reducing the grand larcenies that have occurred at the stores, there's still a lot of petty crimes that are happening, a lot of stealing going on at the stores. And what they're doing is they're like professionals. Some of them, they target us. They see where we're at for the moment, and they run in and run out with whatever they can. And although it might not be classified as a major crime, what it does to the employees and the businesses is harmful. People don't want to feel unsafe. And when you have people running their stores snatching things, and when you try and confront them, they have needles and knives and things like that, and weapons like that. It puts people in fear. And we want to make sure that people who come to 125th Street to shop and to work are safe. And that'll be our greatest challenges going into the summer months.
So thank you very much, Captain Shepard. You have laid out the challenges that we are facing, but also you have articulated the commitment, from the NYPD to address these challenges. And there are many people who are committed to making 125th Street function. And I want to say that the 125th Street bid is overly excited that we are working with you, and you will continue to have our support. You are listening to 125th Street and Beyond. I'm your host, Barbara Askins. Our guests for part 2 of our show today are Daniel Blumenstein, who is the BID's attorney, and Dr. Joseph Tate, who is one of the founding members of Harlem Commonwealth Council. We are discussing in this section why the location that has been selected for a dispensary on 125th Street is the wrong location at the wrong time, and why the bid is suing to prevent it from happening. Our guests here, this is going to be a discussion between with Dr. Tate and Daniel Blumenstein. As many may already be aware, the bid filed a lawsuit to block a cannabis dispensary at 248 West 125th Street. Our move, which we agree was aggressive, got a lot of attention in the city and even national press. This is a big issue in our state, and the whole country is watching to be sure the rollout of these dispensaries is just legal. But more important, it is also an intensely local issue, a Harlem issue, one that is important to our residents and businesses on many levels. That's why I'm here to share with you, our neighbors, our listeners, those of you who work and live here, the rationale behind the big step. So I think first we want to ask Dr. Tate. First, Dr. Tate, let everyone know who you are, your commitment to Harlem, how you helped found Harlem Commonwealth Council, and the rationale behind that in terms of making sure 125th Street survived and became a premier destination in this city. Dr. Tate, that's right.
Harlem Commonwealth Council was founded as an economic vehicle by the Johnson administration for the economic development of the Harlem area and the South Bronx. We have been here for 55 years, and I have been involved with them for 50 years. The purpose, of course, was for economic development, to provide jobs and provide opportunities for people of color here in Harlem, and people who are have been disadvantaged, to make a step up on the ladder. Now, let's fast forward to today, or maybe a little bit before today. Harlem 125th Street was 25 years ago a virtual disaster area, when many people were running away from 125th Street Many people were running away from Harlem. HCC took the stance, and that building on 125th Street between St. Nicholas and 8th Avenue, going to 124th Street, which includes the theater and all that, was our thrust in Harlem, which we called it Harlem USA, and it provided the thrust for the resurgence of the 125th Street corridor. We were very successful, and with that came, you could actually see the resurgence of 125th Street. Things went on cheerily. At that moment, let me be very honest with you, we saw it as a commercial development, as a commercial rejuvenation. Very soon after, we realized that 125th Street was a cultural destination, and with the success of the commercialization, we could then think in terms of, and we decided to work on it, do some zoning changes to bring on entertainment and that kind of stuff, and showcase Harlem and 125th Street. Fast forward, we've been doing very well. Our street counts on, as bid on that Barbara has done, we found that we're doing well. 7,000 people walking around on 125th Street, and I think 7th or 8th Avenue, and businesses were doing well. Now came COVID. COVID set us back tremendously. For example, Red Lobster, which is in one of our buildings, they went out of business. In the same time, you had people like Whole Foods and all that coming along. However, at the same time, you had some of the problems that Captain Shepherd talked about. People robbing, stealing, etc., etc. Going fast forward, we are now faced with another issue, and that is the issue of the placing of the cannabis store on 125th Street. I will defer to the attorney, who is probably much more adept and informative on this issue than I am. However, as a person who has lived in Harlem since 1960, as a person who has been involved with 125th Street for the past 50 years, it is inconceivable that a cannabis store should be placed on 125th Street. And there are a couple of reasons for that. One, it's a main drag. It's our cultural destination. It not only it's our commercial strip that has brought a lot of business to the area, it is a cultural destination. It is also a residential area. It is also an area where children are involved. The location at the present moment, how do you define a school? Bill Clinton will make a definition of this. We say, not because it doesn't say it's a school, let's see what makes up a school. Wherever you have children who are mandated to be at a certain spot, and especially for reformative purposes, that is an area. Just as the same way you don't have certain businesses near churches, you don't have certain businesses where children are involved. If you go further, you have the opioid problems 2 blocks away. We have a new hotel being built, and this thing is being placed right across from the Apollo. Now, how did the state or the dormitory authority, how did they get to this spot? They did not follow the regular procedures that are usually done. You go in and you get community involvement, community approval, community ideas. They have not done this. The area is wrong. It is wrong for a multitude of reasons. I'll be quiet for a moment while Attorney Bloomstein takes this on, Barbara.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Tate. Basically, The lawsuit that has been filed is for 3 reasons. We believe this location is bad for our children. We believe the state is not following the rule of law, and we believe that the state should always collect more community input before choosing cannabis locations. Danny, Daniel Blumenstein has been the bid attorney for over 20 years. So he has been intimately involved in helping us to build the street to where it was post-COVID, and now helping guide us through these times that are challenging. So Danny, I'd like for you to say a little bit more about the lawsuit and particularly the impact and on the children. Daniel Blumenstein.
Yeah, thank you, Barbara, for having me. And
Sure.
It's been actually closer to 30 years now that I calculated.
Gotcha. Yes.
Let's understand first what the state has the power to do under this new cannabis rollout. The state has the right through the cannabis management company to find and locate a dispensary without any community involvement whatsoever. They have the right to dictate who is going to be the licensee, who's going to be running that dispensary without any community involvement whatsoever. And it's only after they have signed a lease and picked a licensee does the community get notified that a cannabis dispensary is going to be placed, in this case, right across the street from the Apollo Theater. And even then, the community board is notified, but the community board has no power to stop it. The community board's sole power is to put in the record their support or opposition to the dispensary. That's it. They don't have a right to vote. They don't have a right to stop it. They don't have a right to approve it or decline it. Their only right is to put into the record, yeah, we like it, yeah, we don't like it. And that's as far as it goes. Now, the state is supposed to go through they call it a granular vetting of the location that's supposed to include whether or not it has community concerns by placing it there. But there's no transparency in how they go about vetting it. So in this case, the OCM hires DASNY, which is the dormitory authority, who in turn hires CBRE, which is a broker, to go out and vet these locations. CBRE gives a list of these locations back to DASNY, and DASNY approves it. DASNY approves it, and the OCM then picks a licensee to tenant it. So at the end of the day, we have no idea what CBRE did, but we know a few things. We know through the bid, I should point out, runs a monthly meeting with all of the federal, state, and local agencies. Maybe 40, 50 people attend. And it's an open, transparent meeting where everybody gets to discuss, everybody brings up issues, and we all try to figure out a way to address those issues. We know that prior to the designation of 248 West 125th Street, the state never came to one of those meetings. They came after they had already signed a lease. And we also know from the people in those meetings that the state or CBRE never interviewed any of these people. They never interviewed Captain Schefter. So we don't know how they could have met their commitment to vet the location to determine that there is no community, that there would be no community issues by placing it there. So what we have here is a community where we have the bid, which is, and let me point out to our listeners, the bid taxes business owners and business owners and real estate owners. They get a special tax, and we use that money to help and implement solutions that we feel will be better off for the community and the 125th Street Business District. So we deal with sidewalk issues, we deal with sanitation issues, we deal with security issues. We try to provide summer programs for kids. We provide the Christmas forum during Christmas time. So we use this money to hopefully improve the business district, and by improving the business district, we are improving the community itself. Because you can't have a thriving community without a thriving business district. So you have the bid, you have all of these agencies working hard to provide solutions to the issues that we're facing: security, sanitation, sidewalk congestion. And out of nowhere, the state just comes and drops down a cannabis dispensary without any notice, without any opposition. They just do it. So they have never been part of the flow. They have never been part of the work that the bid and all the other agencies are doing to try to improve it. They don't know what we're trying to do. All we know is that there's going to be a cannabis dispensary. And now let me also point out, the cannabis dispensary hopefully will be very well regulated. I'm sure it'll be beautiful inside. I'm sure it will have security cameras. I'm sure that once you're inside, you will feel safe and comfortable picking out your cannabis. But the bid has to deal with what goes on in the street. And the cannabis dispensary doesn't care about that. That's the public. And on the street, that's where we have our issues. Who's going to deal with the lines that form? Because you can only have so many people allowed into the cannabis dispensary. Is it going to interact with other businesses? Is it going to cause other problems with businesses? This isn't a shoe store. It's naive to think that a cannabis store is not going to present problems in the area that it's located. If we already have problems with panhandling, we already have problems with illegal street vendors, we already have problems with sanitation and traffic congestion and pedestrian congestion, a cannabis store is not going to help alleviate those problems. It's only going to amplify them. And it's the bid has to now divert money and resources to help those problems. The police can't do it on their own. Sanitation can't do it on their own. That's why we exist. So we have to now move our resources to deal with what we believe will be very significant issues. And let's also remember, the drug culture that has grown up during the 2 years of the pandemic is not going to go away on its own. It is, like I said, it's not a shoe store. These drug dealers are not going to simply give up their clientele and simply walk away and say, oh my God, the state is there, I guess we're out of business. It's going to take time, and it's going to take effort. And it may cause, and we believe it will cause more problems than benefits that it will produce. And let me just say one more thing,
Go ahead
before I let you on.
Okay.
We want a legal cannabis dispensary in Harlem. We're not against it. We're against this location. We are not against illegal cannabis. We believe that it is the right thing to do to have this rollout of cannabis. We believe, hopefully, just like the end of Prohibition, 5 years or 10 years from now, we will rid ourselves of the scourge of illegal cannabis smoke shops. But that's not where we are now. And that's not where this location is. And this location is near the Touro College, where they have a high school, where they have high school students. It's near Streetworks drop-in. It's near the Office of Suspension of the city for Manhattan. So anytime a child is suspended from school, perhaps for smoking pot, they have to go up to Harlem to the Office of Suspension and walk past the smoke shop. So it just doesn't make a sense. And even if it was legal, it is totally inappropriate. And so our lawsuit says it's illegal. And even if it was legal, it's arbitrary and capricious. It doesn't belong where they decided to locate it. And 125th Street is a very large location. Harlem is a beautiful and large community. There are many other places where this can be located. Sorry for taking too much time.
No, you pointed out exactly something that I was going to say when I was about to interrupt you, talking about the Harlem is fragile, and but we are becoming strong. And those of us, Captain Shepard, the special prosecutor, the Department of Health, everybody is working together. We see the potential, but the problems are so big until no one agency can handle it. And so, to add on to where we already have limited resources is going to take us back. So the fight is worth it. We have to fight for the future of 125th Street. And as you said, Danny, for the children, there are over 29 different organizations or businesses that draw children to 125th Street in that block, just in that one block. And so as Chairman Tallery always say to me, 125th Street is a passageway for kids. When school is out, this is the place they like to come and walk across 125th Street. We don't need to be educating them about cannabis or have it right in their face at such an early age. Mukram, you're still on the line. Do you want to add anything to this, and then we'll close out with Dr. Tate?
I think Danny covered all the points, and pretty much that is our main point. To is this the right place? We're not opposed to it in a sense that eventually, but we're not. Harlem's not ready for this, and 125th Street is not ready, considering all the things that we've worked to bring, safety and solid changes to the area. It's just going to set us back.
And can I put a caveat in this? Just say Harlem Commonwealth Council was the sponsor for creating the Business Improvement District and has been a member and supporting and guiding this for the last 30 years.
Okay, Barbara, you have given HCC its credit. Now, one of the things that we have to do is to give you credit for having pulled the multi-agencies into Harlem to have an omnibus approach to all a lot of the issues that abound on 125th Street. Because without you, this would not happen. The fact that Captain Shepard is here, some of these people from the health agencies and all that have come together is because of you.
Thank you.
One of the issues that has been bothersome to me is that many people have said to me on the street, why are you fighting this? Because you're going to lose. Well, whether you think we're going to lose or not, this is a battle worth fighting. And I'm happy that the bid has taken up the cudgels, and you have that kind of support behind you, Barbara, to do this. Because without you are the agent of change here, and without you, I honestly don't think that this fight would have continued. So thank you, and I appreciate your efforts on our behalf.
Thank you, Dr. Tate. So this is a weekly show. We are going to address issues. I will be bringing in some of my other colleagues who are business improvement districts, because I think it's important here right now that there should be more business improvement districts in Harlem. We shouldn't be the only one. So this show is also about education. It's about educating people on how they also can duplicate some of the work that the bid has done. We will be talking more about the interagency. So the interagency, which I can talk about a little bit now in our last few minutes, is we myself and our director of operation, who is a retired detective, we just went out on the street and we looked at everything that was wrong. We looked at everything that was wrong, regardless of who was supposed to take care of it. Secondly, we determined which agency was supposed to address those issues. And after we determined which agency, we went to Mayor Adams and we presented to him a plan and a proposal. And that came because the property owners, the board of directors decided we can't sit back and wait and ask the city to help us. We have to meet them halfway. We have to go to them with something. And so the owners of the property, they came forth and they allowed us to use a vacant storefront to set up. Mayor Adams saw the vision. He assigned his agencies there. And every week we look at what's working, what's not working. Captain Shepard has described to you of how he has changed. He has gone through several iterations of deployment because this takes hands-on day-to-day operation. And that's the reason why the dispensary is a problem, because it has not been integrated into any of this. So how's it going to affect drug arrests? How's it going to affect the work the special prosecutor is doing? What's going to happen with the Department of Sanitation? You know, the removal of the debris on the street, there's a coordinated effort. There has been no coordination with the state. How does the state enforcement work with the city enforcement? Nothing has been worked out. And I think it's come to the point after COVID, we've learned you can't just drop something there and figure it out afterwards. That's the reason why the problems are multiplying, because those who have the power are coming up with policies and bringing different things which they think are the solutions. But without community involvement, without people working together, without the proper city agencies and resources, we're not going anywhere. So I'm excited that I have a board of directors who not only allow me to put forth visions and also put their money behind bringing the vision to fruition, but the Business Improvement District has become a very good model for others in the neighborhood to follow. So you can get in touch with us through you can contact us at 212-662-8999, or you can send an email to 125thstreetbid2@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to 125th Street and Beyond. I am your host, Barbara Askins. Board operator is Angela Harding. I thank my guests today, and next week we will be bringing to you more from 125th Street and Beyond.